Hey, what's up? Welcome to another edition of the Mandatory Live Show. We want to say if you've been rocking with the show, thank you so much. We do appreciate it. If you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, please do because it helps the channel grow. And also, you can find us as well on the audio side wherever you get your shows, your podcasts. We're there too. So make sure to give us a rate and review. You can give us a 5 star because why wouldn't you? But nonetheless, lots to get into on this show. We are going to talk a little bit about David Benavidez and David Morrell, which was announced earlier. They will be fighting early 2025 in January. I believe it's January 25th. We're going to get into that. Subriel Matias and Matchroom have parted ways. We'll get into that as well. But it's a big fight week. And I think this is the fight, Bryan, that everyone has been waiting for because we say 50-50 fight all the time. This is a 50-50 fight. This is a massive fight. Before we get into all of the betting odds, how we're going to bet this fight, how we're going to break down this fight, how we see it going, and if you're wondering what I'm talking about, you shouldn't. It's Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. This fight is arguably one of the best fights of the year. It got pushed back earlier because Beterbiev he had an injury. He had to get surgery, I believe, and that pushed back the fight. But nonetheless, it's going down. And before we get into all the odds and everything, Bryan, how stoked are you for this fight?
Meniscus surgery, by the way, not a small thing, especially because, I mean, this is going to be one of the, I think, underreported things on this fight. But Artur Beterbiev is going to be 40 years old next year. And having surgery at around this point of your career, not the easiest thing in the world, especially when, you're about to embark on an endurance test. And well, Artur Beterbiev has never gone the distance in his career. Dmitry Bivol frequently does, and it's going to be a clash in styles here. So I'm wondering how he's going to navigate that. But yeah, I'm super excited for this fight. I think it's one of the best fights of the year. It's a fight that we've been waiting for in this division for a while. Got really excited about the prospect of it happening. Basically, after Dmitry Bivol beat Canelo, and you were sort of looking around in the light heavyweight division, and it was like, all right, you have the best two right here. And Artur Beterbiev ended up unifying, I think, another belt after that, or maybe he did it shortly before. But regardless, he also hasn't been in the ring that much lately. So in terms of activity, Dmitry Bivol's gotten him beat there, and it's going to be the ultimate test for each guy. It's going to be a classic like boxer versus boxer puncher style fight. It reminds me a lot of Andre Ward and Sergey Kovalev, kind of in like the clash in styles. And you have one guy who's this, amazing finisher, maybe the best finisher in the sport right now, in Artur Beterbiev, and then Dmitry Bivol is as good and as technically sound as basically anyone in boxing outside of like maybe Alexander Usyk, maybe Terrence Crawford, but he's at that level. Like these are two pound for pound guys, and it's the best of the best. And we've never had an undisputed light heavyweight champion in the 4 belt era. The last time we had one was in the 3 belt era, and that was Roy Jones Jr. in 2002. That was a long ass time ago. So this is a super exciting fight, and I'm glad that it's happening because it's undisputed. It's damn near 50-50, as you said. Dmitry Bivol's moved into being a very slight favorite now, and it's a lot reminiscent of what we just had in the heavyweight division with Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, in terms of how close it is, and what's at stake.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those fights that you don't want to miss. It is undisputed, and there's lots on the line here. We are going to get into that a little bit later. But, I just want to mention, and we'll get into this during when we do our full breakdown. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Artur Beterbiev's skill. He is just as skilled, and I think people are sleeping on it, just calling him, the one of the best finishers. That's not what it is. We're going to get into all of that, but let's get into the lines, Bryan, because like you said, it's not that much of a difference. Dmitry Bivol is right now, he is the favorite. Straight up on the money line, I'm seeing minus 126 in Artur Beterbiev, a plus 104 at a prominent book. Bryan, your thoughts on the line and how do you see this fight going? And then you can get into your pick.
Yeah, I saw that too. It was 50-50 not that long ago, and like I said, moved towards Bivol. I think more is coming in on him for, I mean, reasons we're going to get to, but I think that ultimately this is going to be a test of like who can settle in and really invoke their style on this fight sooner, because Dmitry Bivol, I mean, people think of him as like this counter puncher, which I mean, he does that very well too. But he actually does throw volume at you. Like I was doing a film study for my YouTube channel on this about the Canelo fight and how that's can potentially translate. Because honestly, he hasn't really fought anybody like Artur Beterbiev yet, and Canelo's the highest quality opponent that Dmitry Bivol's beaten so far. Even though Canelo Alvarez was coming up into his weight class, but Canelo Alvarez had won in his weight class before against Sergey Kovalev. So like that's not a small thing either. And Dmitry Bivol, what he was doing in that fight was he was jabbing a ton. Whether it was fighting off the back foot, and when you have the Soviet style, you're usually proficient at fighting off the back foot. He is, Dmitry Bivol is, and he was very good at just keeping Canelo Alvarez off balance with his movement, with just pivoting away when Canelo Alvarez had him on the ropes. He would block a couple shots and then just move. He would continue to shift all the time. And then he really settled in later on. And there was like a 10 punch, legitimately 10 punch combination at one point where he had Canelo Alvarez on the ropes. So I'm wondering if he's going to be able to do that against Artur Beterbiev, who I think right now is maybe the best pressure fighter in boxing. And the way he stalks his prey, so to speak, and the way he gets, into people like that, like he is very good at cutting off the ring. We talk about guys who struggle to cut off the ring all the time, like Isak Cruz, for example. Artur Beterbiev is not one of those dudes. Like he's great at cutting off the ring. So it's gonna be in a lot of ways the ultimate clash in styles, because while Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk was a balanced fight in terms of, man, you don't really know who's gonna win. This one is like you could actually see it go, and I hope it's close, and I think it ultimately will be close, but you could actually see it like, oh, wait a minute. Bivol is getting to him quick, and this is starting to become a wipeout because Beterbiev can't figure it out, or Bivol can't survive the pressure, and Artur Beterbiev is breaking him down because he's too strong and because his footwork is actually underrated and is good at cutting off the ring. Like I think there's a clash in a lot of different things here, so it makes me excited for it.
Do you want to give your pick now?
I didn't know if you wanted to like chime in first or before that, but I think ultimately in these instances where it's like boxer versus boxer puncher, I tend to usually favor the boxer here. So I am going with Dmitry Bivol by decision.
I knew it by your breakdown.
Yeah.
I knew it by your breakdown in the intro right away. I was like, this guy's going with Bivol.
Yeah, but that tracks, right? Because there's a few things here. One, Dmitry Bivol, I think, is just in terms of balance. I like what I'm getting from him. It's just a matter of can he take a shot from Artur Beterbiev, which we're gonna find out. We've seen him take shots before, but Artur Beterbiev is different. But ultimately, like I do worry about the knee surgery. Like you just had knee surgery a few months ago, and you're 39 years old, and you're about to be 40. You know what I mean? Like Dmitry Bivol is gonna have that lateral movement that you need to survive a guy like Artur Beterbiev. I think Beterbiev could break him down, but I don't know if he's going to get the chance because the way Bivol, like how smart he is, he's also much younger. He's 33. He's not super young in boxing years, but he's much younger than Artur Beterbiev. And Beterbiev hasn't fought someone this crafty. Like I think the way he can fight and box off of his back foot, the way he can pivot away from damage when he's in danger. There's not a big height or reach advantage either way, but Dmitry Bivol's excellent at using his reach, using his length in a way that makes it feel like he has 77 inch arms or whatever the case may be. When he doesn't, it's more like 72, like 6 feet even. But to me, like I like Bivol in this situation, like I always have. And, obviously this is a 50-50-ish fight, so I could be dead wrong here, but I think his boxing skill and ability will win out in a way that I favored Andre Ward very narrowly over Sergey Kovalev once upon a time.
So what we're going to do is we know your pick, but we're going to get into our bets a little bit later because we know you're picking Bivol. We don't know how you're going to bet it yet, though. I'm guessing by decision that you're going with Bivol.
Yeah, plus 110.
Okay, got you. So for me, I do believe this is a 50-50 fight. And I mean, Bryan, we heard you kind of break everything down in a sense that you could possibly see Bivol just using his skill, using his jab. He's one of the best defensive fighters in the game. He doesn't get hit a lot. And that's another part of this. And you can see Bivol possibly winning against Beterbiev. Now, you mentioned Beterbiev having knee surgery. He's pushing 40, and that is a big deal. But when I take a look at Beterbiev, people are sleeping on his skill set. He knows how to cut off the ring. He's got one of the best jabs in boxing. And the way that he is a pressure fighter, power puncher, those are going to land on your great body puncher too. Like, people don't actually talk about the skill of Beterbiev more than his power, because his power is devastating. The guy's an absolute monster. And I go back to that Callum Smith fight, because Callum Smith was supposed to outbox him. Beterbiev made him look like absolute nothing. And Callum Smith is a good boxer.
Callum Smith had moments in that fight.
A little bit, but
Beterbiev
was not supposed to beat him. Callum Smith was supposed to outbox him.
Well,
and
Artur
Beterbiev.
I don't know about that. Beterbiev was a favorite against him. I wouldn't say that.
But a lot of people thought that he would outbox him.
No, I disagree. I thought Callum.
I mean, listen, he won by TKO. He won by TKO, and it's not one of those things where, you know, Beterbiev is down in fights. Like, for example, when you're thinking about work rate, Beterbiev also has a pretty good work rate. And a lot of people don't talk about that either. Now, the biggest question is he going to be able to get to Bivol, or is Bivol going to be using his distance? He's going to be moving around the ring. We talked about that knee surgery. For me, Beterbiev, he's so good at cutting off the ring. He's such a good pressure fighter, and he's gotten better with an age. It's not like Beterbiev has gotten worse with age. He's gotten better. Like, that's the scariest part. And we all know power is the last thing to go. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Bivol won this fight. It's a 50-50 fight. But for me, I've always had Beterbiev winning this fight, because he's skilled. He has the power. He is, to me, one of the best all-around fighters in boxing. And it's underrated, the skill, because his power is so devastating. So, listen, he has 100% knockout rate. Do I think he's going to knock out Bivol? I actually think this is going to be a fight where Beterbiev, and when I take a look at the odds, we're going to get into this. we're gonna get to our picks in just a moment, but I'm rolling with Beterbiev. I think all around he's a better boxer, in a sense that he has every attribute. We know that Bivol doesn't have that power. Now, in his last fight, yeah, he got the stoppage, but he was also taking a few more risks. He was getting hit a little bit more than he usually does. Great defensive fighter. He doesn't get hit a lot. I don't think this is going to be a situation where it's going to be like him and Canelo, where he just dominated Canelo throughout the fight, because Beterbiev is so skilled. So, and this, we're going to get into some comments, and Hesselman makes a great point here. Bivol has to have a perfect fight for 12 rounds against a different animal. I just don't see it. I'm leaning towards this. I think he has to have a perfect fight, because he's never also faced the power that Beterbiev has.
That's fine, but Artur Beterbiev was losing to Alexander Volstik before he finally dropped him.
He was, but and the same thing with Marcus Brown. He was
also getting tagged by Callum Smith. Artur Beterbiev has been in a lot more wars than Dmitry Bivol. I think people are overlooking that as well.
And I think that's important.
Yeah, like, because when I take a look at, we've seen him be bloodied or whatever the case may be. Like
Bivol, his latest fight, I think that he was really good at was the Zurdo fight. For me,
what do you mean?
That was the fight where I thought, well, because like his biggest fight, his coming to, in the sense of being very popular, was the Canelo fight. Mm-hmm. That was a fight where I took Bivol to beat Canelo. And I think I would, like, a lot of people were thinking Canelo was going to win that fight. And I was like, no, like, I have the proof that I bet on Bivol on that fight, because it was one of the things where I'm like, I got to keep this.
Yeah.
But when I take a look at Bivol, the Malik Zinat fight, he got tagged a little bit more, but was taking a little bit more risk. I also thought it was a fight that he didn't look like himself, but he was taking risks in that fight. He fought Lyndon Arthur. He fought Lyndon Arthur, which was like, yes, he should have beat him. He's like the undisputed. He is the unanimous decision king.
Well, he
and the Zurdo fight, I thought he fought really well. Like, that was a tough fight. Other than Canelo, like what I'm saying, Bryan, is when you take a look at his resume, would you say Canelo and Zurdo are the names that pop out to you?
Yes, and
yes, that's the point I'm trying to make.
I don't think Beterbiev has a win that's up there with the Canelo one, maybe not the Zurdo one either. Like, I think Beterbiev has some good wins, because Anthony Yard, I talked him up when we were like previewing that fight at one point. I liked Callum Smith going into that, but he was a heavy underdog, and Callum Smith, he had some moments in that fight too. Like, Artur Beterbiev obviously is more of a risk taker, because he's in your face all the goddamn time.
He knows how to stalk you.
You know, like
But I do like Beterbiev's resume when you think about Vosdick, you think about Joe Smith Jr., who was on a tear before he fought Artur Beterbiev. Do you remember that fight?
Yeah.
That was the fight where I was like, yo, Joe Smith Jr. might have a chance. He's looking pretty good. That power looks elite. Gets in the ring with Artur Beterbiev, and what happens? He looks really good against Anthony Yard. And like I said, Callum Smith was supposed to come into that fight when you took a look at it technically, and he was supposed to outbox Beterbiev in a sense. Like, I think a lot of people thought that he would be able to do that because I think people sleep on Beterbiev. But yes, I do think the interesting part is the surgery, pushing 40. Like, those are all things that I was taking into consideration because I always was going to rock with Beterbiev because I think his skill is so underrated. And everyone talks about the sweet science. And if you want to rock with Bivol, I'm not going to be mad at that. He has a very good chance to win this fight. But for me, I gotta rock with Artur Beterbiev. How are you? You're gonna bet this fight for Bivol to obviously win by decision.
Win by decision, yeah.
Because I don't see him knocking out Beterbiev. Like, he's just not that guy.
But if I wanted to back Beterbiev, I would take Beterbiev to stop him. Because I think it's one of those things where, like, he just there's a world actually, and there's going to be live betting opportunities here. So I would encourage people, like, if you even don't want to bet this fight, like, beforehand, you're nervous about it, or you want to get off a ticket, potentially hedge. Like, if you want to play this a number of different ways, I think this is going to be a fight that's live bet worthy, which I'll be tempted to do. I typically look for, like, slow starters, for example. Like, Terrence Crawford's great for this. I've made money on Terrence Crawford, like, after the second round. All right, now let's bet him, because he'll give up the first 2 rounds, sometimes the third, and then the judges will be like, oh, Terrence Crawford getting off to a slow start here, as if it's never happened before. And then all of a sudden he starts beating the other guy's ass. So I don't know if it's going to be one of those things, because Bivol didn't do that against Canelo Alvarez. Like, you knew right away, like, oh, this is going to be a different experience for Canelo. Like, he's going to have to figure some things out there. And honestly, the judges didn't have it far enough in terms of an upset, because it was 115, 113 all 3 ways. And I thought Bivol lost 2, maybe 3 rounds in that fight. And then Deserto Ramirez won. That one, he just completely I thought he damn near swept him. The judges did as well.
Very good fight.
Just neutralized him completely. Someone said he needs to be perfect in this fight. I don't think he does. I just think he needs to be able to take a punch.
Hustle, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if he can actually withstand some of Beterbiev's power, and I think honestly he used Malik Zanad for that in his last fight. It looked like he went in there, and this is what I was going to say before. It looked like he went in there looking for a knockout. Like, he went in there trying to get a stoppage.
He did, and as he did, he got tagged a little bit more than he usually does. Bivol is one of the best defensive fighters. Like, not a lot of guys are able to touch him in that fight because Zanad doesn't have power. But Bivol was getting touched quite a bit. So I think he's going to play this one a little bit safe, because I think that's
like some power. I think he's got some
power. Compared to Beterbiev, like, come on, stop it, bro.
No,
like,
no,
come on.
16 knockouts and 22 wins before that.
But who's on his resume? Like, let's be serious here. I mean, all I'm saying is for Beterbiev. And I'm not saying Beterbiev's going to wipe the floor with Bivol. Like, Bivol's going to have his moments.
You're making it sound that way.
No, Bivol's going to have his moments. Just like how when you did your breakdown, it sounded like you were heavy Bivol, and mine might be heavy Beterbiev
too. I talked to Better.
And
on my YouTube channel right now, I did 2 videos.
Stop promoting your YouTube channel. This is about the show.
No, fuck that. I'm doing it. I did 1 for Beterbiev and 1 for Bivol. Why each guy could beat the other guy.
Okay, all I'm saying is, because you keep cutting me off here, Bivol is going to have moments in this fight. He's one of the best fighters in the world. Like, he's on that pound for pound list, and he's going to have those moments. But when I think styles make fights, I just think Beterbiev is going to be able to get to him. And I think the biggest question always is, can you withstand Beterbiev's power? And here's the thing, Bivol's never been stopped before. And then I took a look at the odds, and I was like, there's some really interesting odds here. And the one that I thought that was the one that I would probably bet on, which is kind of crazy, because I do feel like there's a chance that Beterbiev can win in the later rounds and get the stoppage, because Bivol's never faced power like Beterbiev before. But I think this goes to decision. And I think Beterbiev wins by decision. It's a plus 700. Like, that's crazy, and it's wild because everyone's taking the knockout, but Bivol's never been stopped before. And we don't know. We really don't. I don't think his chin has been tested like this. And Bivol's going to have great moments. And I think Beterbiev, the way that he stalks you, the way that he's a pressure fighter, and he has one of the best jabs, he gets to the body. He's all around great with the power. I think Beterbiev gets it done, and I'm going to rock with him with decision plus 700. It's wide, but I also like him winning in rounds 9 through 12, which is a plus 450. So those are two bets that I'll be looking at in this fight. But it is a true 50-50 fight. I just think I keep on hearing the reasons why Bivol will win because of the sweet science, and that's what kind of irks me a little bit because Beterbiev is skilled too. And I don't think people are talking about it enough. When they just talk about his power. And his power is crazy. But that's my whole thing. Like, people are sleeping on Beterbiev and his skill.
Did you like Andre Ward heading into the Sergey Kovalev fight?
Andre Ward is my favorite boxer as a kid. Like, come on, I was biased.
Okay.
He's from Oakland. There was no way that I was not rocking with Andre Ward in that fight. You know what I mean? That's a biased statement from a fan, though. As a kid, like, that fight was a minute ago. Right. So when I take a look at this fight, like, don't get me wrong, like I said, Bivol's gonna have his moments, and I would not be surprised. Like I said this in the beginning, I wouldn't be surprised if he won. This is a 50-50 fight. I'm just leaning towards Beterbiev because I think his skill is underrated. He has the power, he has one of the best jabs in boxing, and people don't talk about it enough. And he's gotten better with age. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, he's better than he was 3 years ago. So for me, it's like I'm rocking with Beterbiev, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bivol won, like, at all. But I got to rock with Beterbiev. Let's get to some comments.
This is Artur Beterbiev, rather, his first fight since January, and this is going to be his fourth fight since December of 2021. So I wonder, activity worries me a little bit there too. He might be a little bit more active during that time.
Yeah, for sure. And he had the surgery and whatnot, but it's like, at least he's fighting twice this year. You get guys that fight once this year, and he had surgery. So let's talk. You know what I mean?
We got fucking prospects fighting once a year now. Prospects, get the fuck out of here, man.
Jalen Davis, Bivol got to keep that jab going and use the ring. Yeah. He has a great jab.
Both of them do. People were mentioning Beterbiev's jab is awesome because he has a fucking power jab, and he is also like, he's low-key slicker than people think on the inside too when creating these different angles. Like, there were times where Callum Smith was jabbing at him and he threw that right hand right over the top of it, like, boom.
Super. His IQ, a little bit, he has a high IQ for sure. Yeah. Just rock with Jalen Davis still. Thank you for rocking with the show. True, it takes skill to go and get your opponent out of there. Both these guys are skilled. That's why I think it's such a great fight, except for Bivol doesn't throw as many power punches in a round.
No,
like, he doesn't, right?
But he will throw punches. He throws more than people think in some instances. But I do wonder, like, okay, if Beterbiev doesn't respect his power, and he may not, he's probably, even if he does, he's not going to show it. He's probably just going to still be in pursuit the entire night because that's how Beterbiev is. But I wonder how that sort of changes things, if it does at all, for Dmitry Bivol in terms of his game plan. I doubt it, because I think Dmitry Bivol is super disciplined. Artur Beterbiev is too. But if Beterbiev could just walk right through him, could he continue to outbox him for 12 rounds? Is a question I do have.
Yeah, I think Beterbiev will get off to a slow start. Like, I think Bivol is going to be the one controlling the fight in the beginning, because the whole thing is Bivol going to be able to keep the distance away, right? Is he going to be able to keep the distance from Beterbiev? And Beterbiev, is he going to be able to get to him? Bivol's so good defensively. And so that's the thing. I think Bivol gets off to a good start, but Beterbiev ends up closing that distance. Let's get to
Beterbiev also doesn't need to get off to a fast start.
Not at all.
Because his whole thing is like, I'm going to fucking end you. So
yeah, but like, it's hard to do against Bivol, right? Because like, he's one of the best boxers and he's so good defensively. So, and he's never been stopped before. So it's so hard for me to think that, even though it's Beterbiev, that he's going to get stopped. But I mean, that a lot of people might be looking at it that way. Ryan Hong, Beterbiev is a 2-time Olympian. F out of here about Bivol boxing ability. This MF dropped Usyk. Yeah, but that's not when they're
Bivol beat Canelo. Like, honestly, this is the two people ever beat Canelo Alvarez convincingly, and the other one's Floyd Mayweather.
I mean, I think the Canelo thing.
I think he should have lost to Lara and Triple G, but yeah.
But at the same time, like, Canelo was moving up in that weight class, and I don't think that's his natural weight class. And he did fight in that weight class before and won. However, Bivol's a different monster.
He rehydrates a lot. He rehydrates to like
but
high
that's still not
numbers.
his natural. It was like we thought he was gonna go all the way up to like heavyweight, like and then he fought Bivol, and it's like it came back to reality that there's weight classes for a reason. Hustle, man. Once Beterbiev lands on Bivol, the whole fight is gonna change. I think Bivol is stronger than people are giving him a chance. Like I don't think it's gonna be like a Joe Smith situation here. It's not gonna be like that. It's totally different. Ryan Hall's.
But it could be like
Yeah, I mean, you
if he
never
lands
know.
the right shot, you know.
The one thing that I hope it's not like is and this has happened before where we're like 50-50, 50-50. I don't want it to be like a Bud and Spence thing where I'm left like so disappointed, because that to me was a true 50-50 fight. And then they got into the ring and I'm like, what is going on here? Like that would be like worst case scenario for me, because I think we could have got this fight like a few years ago, I feel like.
We're not gonna mention this, but they might fight again in the future, unfortunately.
Yeah,
We're
I mean,
we're not gonna talk about that today though.
I don't want to see that. You know what I mean? Reinhard, speaking of which, how did Bivol not make the Olympics? His style is made for that. It's true.
He was a really, really, really high level amateur from like a European and I think world standpoint that just didn't qualify for the Olympics. It happens. Looking now, like yeah, he's got some gold medals and like some different European championships, world championships, but not this is no Olympic. No Olympic there.
He was highly touted, and there was a lot of hype on Bivol, but no one really, like, unless you were a diehard boxing fan and you weren't a casual, you knew how good he was. But then he kind of really rose to fame after that Canelo win.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I
He was
mean? But
champion already.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was really good before, but not a lot of people had heard of him, or if you weren't like a big boxing, if you didn't follow the sport like that, a big boxing fan.
268 of 15 amateur record reportedly for Dmitry Bivol.
The amateur records are always interesting, but I hate when sometimes people bring up the amateur record because it's like the craziest stuff, like Sean Porter and Usyk. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy because it's amateur, but it's like it's always fun to go back and mention. Ryan Hong, Marcus Brown has faster feet than Bivol and ended up getting smashed down the fight. Difference is Bivol is like he's a technician.
I was gonna say Marcus Brown, if he does have faster feet than Bivol, like he's not technical or not as technical, and he's not as disciplined as Dmitry Bivol, like not even close. He's also more of a slugger than Dmitry Bivol is. Dmitry Bivol is obviously a way better boxer.
Our guy Jalen Davis, yeah, Beterbiev is going to make Bivol fight and increase his output. That is true, but I think a lot of people also don't realize that Bivol does throw in fights. Like he has a good jab. He doesn't have a higher work rate than Beterbiev, but I mean, this is going to be interesting to see how this fight goes, just in terms of the style. I think one of these guys, they're going to have to make an adjustment during the fight, for sure.
Bivol's going to be moving a lot, but he's going to be punching a lot because he fights very well off his back foot.
But you know what Beterbiev does really well? He makes the ring so small. Like even if it isn't, he's going to make that ring small because he's that good at cutting off the ring.
Yeah,
so
I can't wait for this fight.
This fight's going to be really good. Hustle man. And Bivol never got punched by a killer like Beterbiev. This is true.
That's
like,
what, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is the hardest puncher he's ever faced, which is also why I led to Beterbiev. But it's so hard. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. When I woke up this morning, I was like, should I go with Bivol? Like I was playing with this in my head for like the longest time, but I think the skill disrespect for Beterbiev pushed me over the edge, and I was like, I gotta. And he's technically Canadian now, so how we you know what I mean? So how could I not rock? How could I not rock with Beterbiev? You know what I mean? I got to. He's Canadian now. Okay, he's gonna have the flag out.
Yeah.
All right, I mean, we're rocking with it.
The other thing is like, and the last thing for me on this, I guess, unless we get to another comment here, I said at the top, I'm saying it again. These guys, neither one has fought one like the other. Like Beterbiev has never fought a guy like Bivol. Bivol's never fought a guy like Beterbiev. That's what makes this fight so interesting.
It's honestly, it could be the fight of the year. I hope so. I hope it's not like Spence.
Stylistically, I'm not sure, but hopefully.
You know what it's so funny because it is really how people are viewing it is like you got the boxer and then you got the puncher. Right. And I don't think it's like that though. Like I don't. I really think Beterbiev is one of the best all-around boxers in the game right now. It's hard. It's definitely hard. He resides in Montreal, which makes sense because Montreal is so European.
Love Montreal.
Montreal is definitely cool. It's so European, so I'm guessing when a lot of people come out there, they're like, this is, even when I got to Montreal for the first time, I was like, whoa, am I in Europe?
That's why I went.
It felt like it. Like as soon as you get out of the airport, it's nothing like any of the other Canadian airports. Like it feels like you're in Europe, right? So I could see why a lot of Europeans, when they move out to Canada, that they reside in Montreal. Big Surge or Surge. Good morning, I'm guessing you're saying.
That's what I thought.
I think you meant GMA. I don't know. Is GRA like a thing now? I would not know.
Isn't that what Ice Spice says? I'm not gonna do it.
I don't know anything about Ice Spice. Okay, I'm like an old lady. Like I'm not bumping Ice Spice in my whip. You know what I mean? Like that's not something that I'm doing. Okay, I don't. The bars are not good enough for me to bump Ice Spice in my whip.
Somebody else here has to know what I'm talking about, but it's fine.
I was like, it's so funny. One time you asked me about Ice Spice, and then like the next day we were on New York Post, and Dex was like, Shantelle, you seem like you listen to Ice Spice. I was like, no, I don't. But you had asked me, and then our guy Dex had asked me too, and I thought it was like hella funny. Do you have any final comments, Bryan, before we get up and out? Well, not up and out of here, but until we move to the next subject.
In response to Jesus's comment, don't know. Because I don't even know where we are about that, but I do remember now that there were some reported allegations involving one of the competitors in this bout. We'll see where that is after and if it becomes a thing, because sometimes in boxing these things get swept under the rug.
Most of the time they get swept underneath the rug. I mean, let's be serious here.
I was being sarcastic.
No, I know. I know you were being real sarcastic, but I'm not being sarcastic. Okay, a lot of the biggest boxers have had allegations like this. So I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but it goes so much under the rug. It
matters if it happened. That's for sure.
But even after, like, guys are still boxing and people forget about it. Right?
Yeah. People box after a lot of different things.
Yes, that is very true. Any final thoughts?
Ryan, I'll watch that because I like that channel actually. For the most part. All right. Next topic.
So we're going to switch into our next topic, which I think it could get the winner of Bivol and Beterbiev. Possibly. This could be a thing, but we'll probably get a second one if it is an interesting fight. Like, let's be serious. I'm talking about David Benavidez and David Morrell. The Battle of the Davids is what's going to be going down. And this is going to happen January 25th, early next year. It's in Vegas. This is a massive fight, Bryan, and two young guys. Like, I think you could kind of say David Benavidez is right now, he's getting a lot of exposure. He's becoming that superstar. David Morrell, though, I feel like people are still sleeping on him. Very dangerous fighter. Both these guys, I would say, are in their prime. Your thoughts on this bout?
You say people are sleeping on David Morrell. I don't even know if a lot of people know who he is. So
that's excited. What I mean. People are asleep. Like, they haven't woken up yet. Yeah. All right. Like, this is a very good fight. This is like a crazy fight that's happening.
Yeah. So I'm excited about this because of that. I think David Morrell is legitimately really good. I'm curious to see when the odds drop. This is still, it's not like I don't know how official it is or whatever the case may be, but it's looking like David Benavidez himself basically confirmed it after it wasn't confirmed. It wasn't reported yet, and there was like a whole thing in like terms of like whether or not it was real. It turns out that it was after a while. But David Benavidez, like, respect for taking a test. It's very risky at this point. He says he wants to put on the best fights. I mean, this is a way to do it, and putting your money where your mouth is, so to speak, against a guy that you don't seemingly have to fight at all. But you kind of look around the landscape, and we're talking about the light heavyweight division a lot today for obvious reasons. But if Beterbiev and Bivol are 1 and 2 in whatever order, and whoever's won will win this fight. So we're going to have a 1 and 2 set after Saturday. These guys are basically next in line. Like, David Benavidez just moved up to this weight class. David Morrell too, actually, because both of them were just a super middleweight, moved up to light heavyweight. And the whole thing with David Morrell is like, we want you to fight better competition. okay, here's David Benavidez. And with David Benavidez, it's like, all right, we want you to have a big fight because you're not going to fight Canelo Alvarez. And it's like, all right, let's get the best guy available. I'm super excited for this. I
This
don't
fight's
know.
crazy.
I
This
don't
fight's
have.
crazy.
Do
You
you
know,
have
you
an
know why
early
it's
lean
crazy?
on this? Do you have an early lean on
No,
this?
no, I don't. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I thought about it. Like, I'm probably gonna make a game time decision.
Yeah, I don't.
Just like
don't
how
know.
I did this morning. Like,
Yeah.
I went hella hard for Beterbiev, but I didn't know how I was gonna bet this fight. I'm not gonna lie to you. I still was unsure. I gave you 2 bets that I was leaning on
Sure.
for this fight. It was for Beterbiev, but I will say that was the biggest knock on David Morrell, right? Like, a lot of people aren't aware of how good he is, how skilled he is, how much power he has. He's very good. Right? Cuban boxer. Like, it's going under the radar, and everyone's been like, well, he's got to fight somebody. He's got to fight somebody. He's fighting David Benavidez, but this is a David Benavidez who, despite the fact that he won his last fight, his first fight in this weight class, people said it was a little bit lackluster. And he doesn't get the Canelo Alvarez fight. He wants it. Canelo's like, nah, fam, I'm going to fight Edgar Berlanga, and I'll see who I'm going to fight next. Like, Canelo's doing whatever he wants because he can. But this is a massive fight of 2 guys that are still really young. And like I mentioned, they could fight. The winner of this fight could fight the winner of Bivol and Beterbiev, depending on if we're going to get a second one. And I'm going to be honest, Bryan, Benavidez and Morrell, this could be such a great fight that there could be a second fight for this one too. That, like, do you have a lean on who you're going with for this fight? Like, are you leaning more towards? Okay, so you're
No.
unsure as well.
I want to rewatch, particularly David Benavidez' last fight, because a lot of people were critical about, like, hey, his power's not translated to light heavyweight. He also fought a really tough dude.
It wasn't an easy
who we
fight,
talked about earlier. And David Morrell is kind of hard to assess because he hasn't fought anyone nearly as good as David Benavidez at all. I don't know if he's fought above, like, with all due respect, but in terms of contendership, has he fought above a C-level fighter at this point in his career? Probably not.
But here's the one thing I'll say about that. Sometimes it's just business, right?
No,
but
it's not. I'm not saying it's his fault, but and to his credit, because people said this about, like, Roy Jones Jr., people said this about Naoya Inoue, people said this about Terrence Crawford. And listen, all you can do is dominate who's in front of you when it comes down to it. And I don't get the sense that David Morrell is, like, calling his own shots in his career, so to speak. So, like, this is who was put in front of him. Now, with David Benavidez, like, can you look at previous David Morrell film, which I may try to do, and be like, hey, is he going to beat David Benavidez? It's going to be hard to assess. And you just have to, it's either you believe in his ability or you don't at that point.
Yeah. And he hasn't fought anybody like David Benavidez. Benavidez has the resume over Morrell, but Morrell is such a dangerous fighter, and we haven't seen too much of him. And to go up in weight class and fight David Benavidez, that's massive. Like, and this fight isn't even that far away. Like, we're almost at the end of the year. And tell Inoue to stop fighting on holidays. Just want to say.
Oh my God. Yo.
Why? Why are you doing this to us? Are we gonna be on the Christmas again?
Christmas
It's on Christmas Eve. Christmas, yeah.
The morning of Christmas Eve, so it's not the worst thing in the world. But I'll tell you what, my girlfriend can't stand this dude because he keeps fighting on holidays.
And he's like the biggest fight. He's like arguably pound for pound number one, one of the biggest boxers in the world. But yeah, like Christmas Eve morning, that's tough, dude. You know what I mean? Because Christmas Eve, like that's one of the biggest days. Like, I feel like that's bigger than Christmas, because Christmas for me is like NBA day games.
Let me ask you. I love Christmas.
It's a full slate. Yeah,
that's one of my favorite weeks of the year, even though it's the end of the year. Let me throw a couple names at you. Who would win in a fight between David Morrell or Caleb Plant?
I like Caleb a lot. I like David Morrell. I'm very high on David Morrell. I also am I love Cuban fighters. I love their style. I would pick David Morrell, but I wouldn't be surprised. Caleb Plant, like, I think Caleb Plant can go toe to toe with anybody. And you could also argue that he kind of fought Canelo the best before he ended up getting the TKO stoppage. I thought he fought Canelo pretty well, and he had his moments. Who would you pick, Caleb Plant or Morrell?
I think Morrell might actually be the favorite there.
But it wouldn't be on, like, in a sports book though. Like, I think Vegas would get that wrong. I think they would have Caleb Plant as the favorite. Wouldn't you think so?
I think it would open up close. I don't know. I wonder how a lot of people would bet that fight. I ultimately will probably go Morrell there at this stage.
Okay.
But Caleb Plant did close impressively in his last fight after an awful start against Trevor McCumbee. Awful start.
Yo, he
Um,
had a great finish, right? That was a fight where I'm like, what's going on with? I think I messaged you on WhatsApp, and I was
yeah,
like, what's going on with Caleb? Like,
yeah.
I thought it was donezo for him, and then all of a sudden, like Trevor McCumbee though surprised me. Just saying. No.
And granted, Caleb Plant was super middleweight, and David Morrell is now light heavyweight, but he was just super middleweight, so we could still make this comparison. Would you take David Morrell to beat Boo Boo Andrade?
Yes, he's being boo boo.
Would you take him to beat Alexander Vosdik?
Yes, he's beating Bostic.
Okay.
That's how high I am on Morrell. Like I think this is a great fight. I think he does have to fight better competition, but that's what he's doing. Now he's fighting one of the guys that is poised to take over the division in David Benavidez. This is a fight that, like, I can't believe we're going to get it.
Would you take him to beat Callum Smith?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't even
I didn't
have
think
to
you were
think
going to
about that.
hesitate on that.
Did you? I answered so quickly. I was like, yes. I started yelling. I don't even need to yell. I have a mic. Yes, I'm taking him over Callum Smith. Are you taking him for any of those guys that you just mentioned? Are you taking Morrell?
I probably also am taking Morrell. Yeah. I'm the one I'd be less confident in is probably Caleb Plant.
Okay.
But because I think Caleb Plant's the next best of the guys I just mentioned.
Okay, can we get into some comments? Because I just saw a comment.
Yeah.
I want to get into
Let's
this.
do that. Let's do that.
Okay, and also we're gonna get into something Subriel Matias and Matchroom in just a bit. We're gonna get into
that'll be
this though.
quick.
I like this comment because I think if you watch the show, you know, I am on Pacheco. I wanted Pacheco and Morrell until Morrell moved up. Now Pacheco, Munguia, or Berlanga is great fights. Give me Pacheco and Berlanga.
Yes, that's the one.
I want that fight
or
badly.
Munguia and Berlanga.
Yes, you know what? I rather get that first.
I think I'd rather that because Pacheco hasn't fought Canelo yet.
Yes, you're right. Okay, you know what? If Canelo fights Pacheco, I'm not gonna do a post fight show. I'm gonna be so mad if Canelo picks to fight Pacheco next. I'm not gonna do it, Bryan. I'm not gonna show up. I'm sorry. Like you're gonna like let's do the. I'm not like I'm done. Like I'm not gonna do another Canelo fight. If that like I don't want to see that happen.
Me neither. Diego Pacheco, by the way, we're both you especially, but we're both very high on his potential. But
Yeah,
he still has to compete at this sort of level, which is why I would say put Berlanga in there with Munguia first. I'm not totally convinced that Edgar Berlanga beats Diego Pacheco, by the way, and I say that as a Puerto Rican. But
I would take Pacheco right now.
you know,
Sorry.
like, but he still hasn't yet. Like Pacheco hasn't fought.
Yo, hold on. Let me ask you a question.
That's a good fight hustle, man. That you just left in the comments, by the way.
Who are you picking if you had to pick now against Munguia and Berlanga? Do you have a favorite? I think that's a hard fight to pick.
So if you remember, before they both fought Canelo, and definitely before Edgar Berlanga fought Canelo, I said I'd favor Munguia in that fight. Now, I'm a little less sure of that.
Ooh, okay.
I'm not saying that we need to be super impressed by Edgar Berlanga's showing against Canelo Alvarez. Ultimately, he won like 2 rounds and survived, and Canelo Alvarez looks like it's probably more of a tale of him not being able to finish guys anymore at this stage. But at the same time, I could argue that he might have fought better than Jaime Munguia did against Canelo, and Jaime Munguia has some shaky moments in his last fight, which tough fight. And he did finish and he persevered, and we got to stop like, oh, you know, they struggled and that like they overcome something is like they show their resiliency in an effort like that. But at the same time, I still would like to see Berlanga's bounce back performance before I can make an assessment. Like
a tune-up fight before that fight.
Right. Let's see him against a Trevor McCumbee, as I mentioned. Let's see him against, you know, one of these other guys at that level. Hopefully he fights very soon, because I think Munguia and Edgar Berlanga, like that's a big fight.
That's a blockbuster fight, I feel like, to make.
It's not going to determine pound for pound rankings or anything like that, but it's a fight that will do very well. And you could actually sell Puerto Rico versus Mexico because you have 2 guys on the same tier. And
you had a great point. And doing it for the weekend for Puerto Rican Day Parade, like that weekend, they could do it in New York.
Please, yes.
With Berlanga, like that's a massive fight, and everyone loves the rivalry with Mexico and Puerto Rico. You know what's interesting? I was unsure and I was leaning towards Munguia, but now I'm leaning towards Munguia even more after the Bazinian fight. I love how he fought in that fight. That fight to me was a great fight, and Bazinian had some great moments in that fight. And Munguia fought that fight so well. He was down in that fight, and he proved me wrong. I was worried about Munguia for a little bit, and he just turned it up. And I was like, you know what? That Canelo fight changed him. He was a different fighter after that. And that win to me, I would lean towards Berlanga. But like you said, Berlanga now needs that tune-up fight because he might look extremely impressive and have a fight like that.
Yeah, Bazinian's another guy that I think Edgar Berlanga could fight. And Hustleman mentioned Christian Mbili. He's a guy that we should just say his name as it relates to this conversation. He might actually be the next Canelo opponent. And I'm not like, I think Christian Mbili like kind of needs to show more before I can be like, he's going to win this fight. But I'm intrigued. I'd be intrigued by that.
Yeah, let's get to that comment.
Oh, right. Hustleman. Yeah, he said that Hustleman's carrying the comments. Yo, where's the rest of the comments, yo? Hustleman's killing y'all. No, we have one here that I want to get to, but I did see this. Edgar Berlanga versus Gabriel Rosado is a rumor. Rosado
That's
is
a good
actually
fight.
calling for it. It's a fun fight, and it's
Rosado's got power. Like Rosado has some of the best knockouts to watch. Like go watch his highlights. Sometimes I just like go on YouTube and I just watch like knockouts. Rosado has a pretty good package that you could find online for his highlights in terms of his knockouts. So it's really interesting.
Rosado hasn't fought since April of 2023. He is 26-17, but he's much more competitive than his record would entail. He's one of the best, with all due respect, journeyman that we've probably had. Who he's been a contender before. So like that'd be an interesting and also dangerous fight for Edgar Berlanga.
Very dangerous.
We know what Gabriel Rosado's coming to do. Like
and that's a fight where like Gabe is a live dog. He's a live dog in that fight. You know what I mean? That's an interesting fight. This is a great comment. I don't want to mess up the name. Bryan, maybe you could try because Bryan's an author, so I trust him. Buy the book too. If you're gonna promote your YouTube channel,
Jadala Ahmed.
Promote your book too.
I think it's Jadala Ahmed. David Morrell will beat Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol, and the only stress David Morrell will have, which I don't think he will be able to beat the boxer, is David Benavidez.
Ooh, that's like a really good hot take.
Yeah,
very good hot take.
I don't know if I agree, but I mean, listen. To your point, if David Morrell beats David Benavidez, let's just say he does. This wasn't your point at the end, but because this is his next fight. If he beats David Benavidez, and if he does it convincingly, am I going to sit up here and be like, he can't beat Dmitry Bivol or Artur Beterbiev, the winner of that fight?
I don't think I'm ready to say that though. That's the only thing. Like I'm not ready to say that either Morrell or Benavidez would beat Bivol or Beterbiev.
No, we got to see the fights first.
Yeah, like and they've been doing it in this weight class. Like Morrell and Benavidez have just come up. Morrell's coming up to this weight class. So I don't think I'm ready to say that just yet. Let's get to some more comments. Nerd, good friend of the show, who we haven't seen for a minute. Thank you for joining us this morning. Benavidez is back with Memo. Okay. So I will expect better vision with more stamina and resistance.
Okay. Dave Benavidez
is conditioning always the knock on him? Do you feel the conditioning? Like I thought
that's a recent thing because he was actually being lauded for his stamina before that, particularly at super middleweight. I don't know. I don't know how much of this is an overreaction from his last performance, which wasn't a bad performance. It just wasn't to the level that many expected. People expected him to get a stoppage, and he did not in a new weight class.
Yeah, let's stick with Nerd. Benavidez beats Morrell real good. So leading towards Benavidez. Yeah, like it's a possibility Benavidez is that good. Like he just gets on a tear, and once he gets in a rhythm, it's like it's dangerous. It's scary. They don't call him the monster for nothing.
All right, Ryan, like going at a new comment.
Whoa. Ryan is a good friend of the show, but he does bring the heat.
Yeah, Sky
sure
Nicholson, by the way, is
this is I'm sorry. I can't contain myself.
Sky Nicholson will stop Usyk in 4 rounds. Keep it clean, as the referees would say. in the comments. Not clean. You can curse. I don't give a fuck about
I
that.
will
You
say
know?
though, this is a pretty respectful way to like get on somebody. Ryan, I appreciate that. Like
Sky
you're not
Nicholson's
even
good, by the way. Sky Nicholson's good.
anyway.
She's I think a featherweight champion.
I'm sorry. That was one of I haven't laughed like this on the show because that was one of the funniest comments I've ever seen.
She an Undisputed? I think Sky Nicholson's an Undisputed. I haven't played the game yet. I have it. It's there. It's there. I downloaded it and everything, but I haven't popped it in yet. I haven't had time because work. But I'm trying to. We're gonna talk about that next week. By the way, might as well say that we're gonna talk about Undisputed next week more in depth once we both play the game because we both have it. We've both been busy, but we're gonna do a whole segment on just that because we're both gamers. And we've been looking forward to this game for a minute.
Whoa, Hustle Man Sky Nicholson beats Amanda Serrano, but y'all not ready for that conversation? I don't know about that.
Let's talk after Taylor Serrano too, is what I would say.
Ooh,
I kind of think
that's coming up.
I kind of think Katie Taylor is going to win that fight. But yeah.
Okay, so I think because I thought Serrano won the first fight, dude.
Me too, but now I'm a little worried. Like, all right, like getting up there a little bit. Been in some big time fights and not really knocking people out anymore. I know she just knocked out Stevie Morgan, but we saw Stevie Morgan and we're immediately like, oh, this is why you couldn't find any of her fights. This is why you couldn't find any of her fights on YouTube, and all of her fights were in like Venezuela and shit. Like she clearly was not.
And then Bryan sent me a YouTube ad that Stevie Morgan was in, and I was like, why is this YouTube ad playing for 2 minutes? And then I realized it was a video. Okay,
she was like being like, it was like in a corporate office. She's a businesswoman in Tampa. Yeah. Hopefully didn't get wiped out by the hurricane. If you're watching this and
it's really sad stuff, man. Yeah. Really sad stuff down in Florida. Hoping everybody's safe down there. Let's get to 2 more comments, Bryan. I'll let you pick them, and then we should move over to some other big news about Subriel Matias if you haven't heard.
Yeah, let's see. All right, now we have Sky Nicholson slander in the comments. I would interview Sky Nicholson also.
I would like to, for sure.
I would interview Sky Nicholson. I don't think she's a hype job, but I do want to see her fight some, a higher quality competition. Sarah Mafo, I mean, basically shut her out, so that's a good win.
Yeah. Very, 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 very good win. All right, you know what? Let's get to the other news that I've been kind of not teasing. I've been saying it.
Oh, that's right. She also stopped Lucy Wildheart, and Michaela Mayer did not.
That's a good win as well. But listen, Sky Nicholson is not stopping Usyk in 4 rounds. It's not happening. Okay. All right. So this is some really big news that just got announced not too long ago. But Subriel Matias and Matchroom have parted ways. Now, initially, we had heard that Subriel Matias had signed a multi-fight deal, but Bryan has more on that, on what you kind of heard about that situation.
Yeah, so Eddie Hearn, there's a clip of him in, one of these interviews with one of these channels. And basically, he's saying that they didn't have to move forward with Subriel Matias's deal if he did not get it done in Puerto Rico against Liam Paro, which apparently, it's a multi-fight deal, but it wasn't really reported that it's a multi-fight deal, including an option, because, reporting in the sport can be flimsy. That's why I couch damn near everything as it relates to like what gets announced and what doesn't. In this sport, we don't have like an Adrian Wojnarowski, although he's gone, Shams Charania or Chris Haynes. We don't have people like that in this sport necessarily. So with all due respect to the reporters that are in this sport, Subriel Matias had a multi-fight deal, and I guess Matchroom was able to just opt out after this first fight that he lost against Liam Paro, and now Subriel Matias is going to return next month on some card in Puerto Rico that has some interesting names on it, particularly Puerto Rican names on it, and it's going to be his comeback fight, and he's not going to be with Matchroom Boxing anymore. And Eddie Hearn kind of left the door open from what I saw in terms of like, if they're going to do it again, if they're going to work together again, like they'll see in the future, and maybe he beats his next opponent, who is Roberto Ramirez, in this fight enough to where he can get another deal like that. But he kind of fucked up a big opportunity by getting outboxed at home. Like, here's the thing about it. And I kind of get Eddie Hearn's side of this. you have this opportunity because you're building up this guy as the boogeyman. And he looked like it beforehand because it looked like at one point, like, yo, could he actually beat anybody and everybody potentially in this division? And Liam Paro coming into that fight, it was like, you don't want to sleep on him, but Subriel Matias, like, you're good enough to beat this dude. You should, right? And then he fights Liam Paro in Puerto Rico. They set it up for him. He has a flop performance where he just gets outboxed in his hometown. He had some moments in that fight for sure, but it still wasn't like that close. It was probably 8-4, 9-3 in terms of rounds that he lost. And yeah, it's tough to like want to move forward after that if you feel like you could build. It's not like he's 22 either. He's in his early 30s. So like to build him back up, like, you know, it's difficult at that point. So he's fighting Roberto Ramirez. And Ramirez, if you remember, he's fought some other guys before, like William Zepeda, for example, got knocked out by him. So he's been in the ring with some familiar names, that being one of the sort of main ones here. And we'll see if Subriel Matias could do what he does, get him out of there. Because if he does, then ultimately he'll be in another big fight after that. Like maybe he gets, the Liam Paro Richardson Hitchens winner, or the Jack Catterall Regis Prograis winner. Like if he
I would
wins
like to
his
see
fight,
that. Yeah.
like if he wins his fight impressively, he'll be right back in the title picture, because this weight class is like it's just like that right now. Like nobody is really overwhelming in this weight class at this point.
I mean, it kind of sucks for Subriel Matias, but I think Eddie Hearn laid out a pretty good deal for him. You're fighting in Puerto Rico. You're known as the boogeyman of the division. And it seemed like a lot of people didn't want to fight Subriel Matias. Then you got a hungry Liam Paro who goes to Puerto Rico. And by the way, he's headlining his next fight in Puerto Rico.
Against Richardson Hitchens in the title defense. It's going to have a lot of good Puerto Rican fighters on the undercard. Yes.
So for Subriel Matias to lose the way he did, there were so many things in that fight that were so frustrating, where I'm like, why isn't he cutting off the ring? Why is he not being that pressure fighter that we know that he is? And I kind of go back to, was it just too much? Like was all that attention too much for Subriel Matias at that point? And it might have been, because he didn't seem like the boxer that I was like known to see. So for me, it seemed uncharacteristic, that fight, but Liam Paro's a dog. Like Liam Paro is that good. So that was a very tough fight. Now, he's going to have this fight coming up in November. I'm not mistaken.
November 9th. That's going to be at, Ruben Rodriguez Coliseum.
Yeah. So that's a big fight where if Subriel Matias has a great finish, if it's a statement fight, then we are probably going to see him against somebody else in the division. Hopefully the winner of, Regis Prograis and Jack Catterall, which, by the way, that's going to be a very fun fight to break down as well.
Later this month.
A lot riding. But, Bryan, I mean, my question to you really is, I don't know if he would sign back with Matchroom. Like, if I'm Subriel Matias, I'm kind of pissed off, too. Because, obviously, there was an option. But if I'm Subriel Matias and, Eddie Hearn's like, yo, peace, we're out. Like, you let us down. I'm not going back to Matchroom. Maybe I go to Top Rank, because there's some good fights to be made at 140 at Top Rank. Remember, Teofimo Lopez was saying that he wanted to fight Subriel Matias. That's still a fight that I think could be a dangerous fight, not only for Teo, but I think it could be a good fight for Subriel Matias. I really want to see what happens after this fight for Subriel Matias and where he ends up signing, because I still think he's a guy that will get a lot of eyes in terms of not casual boxing fans, but boxing fans. I think still see him as a guy that is still dangerous. He's still a top 10 in the 140-pound division. Like, let's not just take him out of there. One loss doesn't mean anything.
Maybe top 5, honestly.
Yeah, you could still make that argument. That's the thing. Like
let's do this. And you're not doing this because you're a proponent of the opposite of this. So I'm just saying this to like the public. But let's stop writing guys off after one loss. Let's stop doing that. The reason why in MMA you get so many great fights is because they don't write people off after one loss. It's not about protecting people just go in there and they fucking fight. And that's something that I think boxing could do better at. It's one of the things that MMA has over boxing. I think boxing has a lot of things over MMA, though. Don't get it fucking twisted. But in terms of guys in this weight class, like, all right, Subriel Matias does what he does against Roberto Ramirez and gets him out of there, whatever the case may be, round 8, round 9, round 6, round 4. Don't give a shit. Like, if we look up and it's like, all right, in April, Teofimo Lopez is going to defend against Subriel Matias, are we all going to be like, hey, Teofimo Lopez is going to kick his ass?
I think you'd be dumb to say that.
Like,
I think you would be actually. I'm just gonna say it. If someone said that, I'd be like, "You're dumb."
the margins in this weight class are very small. Like, we've seen how many
I think the weight class is
lackluster,
a. I think the weight class is a mess because we don't
yeah,
really
in a
know
good
who is
way, in
the
an
king of it.
entertaining
Yeah,
way.
yeah, and that's what I mean.
Like,
Like we don't know who the king is of the division. I don't think there is one.
I think it's Teofimo Lopez, but we've seen a few lackluster performances from him in recent years. Like, there's been a number of them at this point, including his last one against Steve Claggett. Like,
Hey, he's Canadian who fought him very well, by the way, but
right,
Teo wasn't able to get him up and out of there.
like the Jermaine Ortiz one before that,
That
and
wasn't
like
his fault. That wasn't his fault though, because Ortiz had
cut
a
off the
game
ring better
plan.
though. To
Yes.
what you say about like Isak Cruz and like cut off the ring better, and then like actually like Jermaine Ortiz could have walked out there with the title if if you just had different judges that night, really. But if he just took more chances or whatever. But like, yeah, I think some of that is on Jermaine Ortiz, some of that's on Teofimo Lopez too. Like, this happens with you against Sandor Martin also. Like, how many times are we gonna have to see it?
Sandor Martin is such a tricky fight. Like
He's
tough fight.
one performance since
Josh
moving up to
Taylor.
this weight class that
That
you're
we're
like,
like,
oh, he
whoa.
put it all together
Yeah.
against somebody really good.
But I think when you take a look at Teo's resume, this I don't know how we jumped to Teofimo Lopez. He
No,
has
because we're
one
talking
of the
about
best
140
resumes.
at this
Yeah.
point. Like,
And I think I have him number one in that weight class,
me too.
but I would not just be like, he's gonna destroy Subriel Matias. In fact, like I might even put money because Teo's chin a little bit sus at times. I might even put like a small bet on Subriel Matias to win by knockout.
I think Teofimo Lopez will still probably win that fight because he can do what Liam Paro did in terms of outboxing Subriel Matias, but like
he's got skill and power.
But yeah, but
Great
I'm not
counterpuncher,
just gonna
yeah.
I'm not just gonna write off Subriel Matias after one loss. Like, all right, another 140 pounder. If Subriel Matias fights Devin Haney tomorrow,
I wait look at the odds for Subriel Matias.
a lot of people can't stand Devin Haney, so a lot of people are gonna be, oh, Subriel Matias is gonna knock him out.
Can I be honest with you? Devin don't want to see Subriel.
I don't think Devin wants to see anybody who has power right now. He shouldn't want to.
No,
because now we have quite like, listen, the Ryan Garcia fight was the Ryan Garcia fight. We've talked about it a number of times up here. There's a lot of fucked up shit that goes into that fight, and one of the things that we'll have to see how it plays out is whether or not Devin Haney is going to be chinny moving forward. And Subriel Matias and Teofimo Lopez and guys in this division have power, like
Yeah.
So we'll see.
And I definitely agree with Bryan. You can't write off guys that have lost or have a couple of losses on their resume. And I think Subriel Matias, if he has a very good performance, we're going to see him in another big fight. And that's what I want to see.
What? You know what Eddie Hearn could do? Because they're going to have Jose Ramirez fight your boy Arno Barbosa. You're so excited for this fight. Jose Ramirez.
You have no idea.
Finally fighting Arno Barbosa.
I can't wait.
So the winner of that fight, what if they fight Subriel Matias next in like an eliminator?
It's
like, these are tough fights in this division. Liam Paro, Richardson Hitchens, like Ryan Honk said it earlier in the comments. He thinks that Liam Paro is going to wash Richardson Hitchens. I don't think he's alone in that. There are some people that think that, but for now, the fight is close to even in terms of betting. But
I'm taking Liam Paro, not to wash him.
But that's a good fight that could potentially be really close. I know people are down on Hitchens right now, though. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I think you could argue that maybe he didn't win his last fight.
He did not.
Okay, exactly, right? But
listen, I like Hitchens. I covered him early on in his career. He was coming up in Brooklyn, like all those different things. But this is a tough one. This is going to be a tough one against Liam Paro.
All right, let's get to some comments and let's get up and out of here because we've been here for more than an hour. And fun fact, Bryan and I only used to get 7 to 8 minutes to talk about this stuff back in the day, 2 years ago. We would only get 7 to 8 minutes to do this. So this is why. By the way, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And you guys, if you want, you could donate to the show because we could do this more often. Just saying, we do appreciate those.
We're also toying, if you're still here, I might as well say this now. We're toying with the idea of a fantasy basketball league with us and listeners from the show. So if you're interested, let us know. Drop a comment, send us a DM, whatever, because we're looking to put something together, and it would obviously be a money
Yo,
league.
I'm so mad. I'm so mad. My draft is on the same day as Bivol and Beterbiev, and it's literally like an hour and a half before. So that Chris Eubank fight, I'm probably not even gonna watch.
Who does a draft on a Saturday?
That like they voted in this league, and
Ugh.
everyone picked Saturday at 1:30 Pacific time, and I was worried. I'm like, what if the fight starts at 2? Like, what if, you never know, right? So the draft actually goes by pretty fast. I feel like it's like a half hour tops. Like people make their picks pretty quick, but still, it's like that's crazy. Like I'm upset that the draft is just before the fight starts.
Undercard Boxing says he's taking Africa, meaning Richardson Hitchens, to beat Liam Paro in this fight.
Interesting.
Yeah. Africa is his nickname for people who don't know.
Thank you, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah. Nerd says 140 stacked of good to decent fighters. Didn't even mention Alberto Puello, by the way, who had a great performance against Gary Antoine Russell. Like,
how is that going under the radar as well?
Teofimo Lopez fights Alberto Puello right now. Are you betting Teofimo Lopez with confidence?
No, I'm not. Like, I'm not betting anyone with confidence in this weight class.
I think Teofimo should win that, but I think
it's close.
Talking about people being slept on. Alberto Puello's good.
Puello, I don't think Teo wins that by stoppage, though. I think he would have to win on the cards. Puello's tough.
Teo doesn't stop people like he used to. That's for sure.
No, I mean, I think there's questions about him being in that weight class if his power transcended.
Andy Hirooka from Japan, who is still looking for a big ass fight. Like this weight class is good. This weight class is very interesting.
Very, very much so. I mean, even Bryan Norman Jr. Wasn't there a rumor that he was going to fight Teo?
Yeah, there was a rumor about that. Is he definitely at 147 at this point?
I think so. Well, I believe so. Yeah.
Well, he's injured. He was supposed to fight coming up. Let me see. Yeah, welterweight.
A lot of Amanda Serrano comments too now.
But I got the impression that not that he was going to come down to fight Teofimo Lopez, that Teofimo Lopez was going to go up to welterweight.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know who's winning that fight either.
That's a tough fight because Bryan Norman Jr. is good.
Yeah.
Like very, very good. But maybe we'll get Teofimo Lopez and Bud Crawford. You never know. Lots of back and forth between those two. Just want to say thanks to everyone that joined us on the show this morning. Also left comments, subscribe to the show, like the video. We do appreciate you. Oh my God. Hustle Man, friend of the show. Duran Ennis and Karen again. Chukazan. Come on, bro. I don't even think I'm gonna watch it live. I'm lying. I am, but
we're not doing a post-fight show. I'm letting you know right now. We're not. I think
Bam is fighting on that card.
I think even he's in a one-sided fight on that card.
He is. Because El Gallo and
post-fight show this weekend though. We are doing that. This is a post-fight live, first one in a little bit. We are doing it for Bivol, Beterbiev. And
I think we got to do one for Regis Prograis and Jack Catterall, though.
Yeah, I was literally about to ask. Like, okay, yeah, because we're probably more into that fight than most boxing fans.
I'm really into that fight, and we were talking about one-sided earlier, and me and Bryan kind of got into it. I'm sorry, like I think I'm going to be extremely biased in that fight.
Regis Prograis.
He has a lot to prove though, because his performances haven't been good.
He hasn't had a good performance in 2 years.
Everyone's like, has he lost it? But I think you know how I feel about Jack Catterall. Like if you watch the show, I think you know how I feel about. I don't even want to say it, but I'm not the biggest fan of Euro level fighters.
Jack Catterall's good, man. He's better than that, but he's becoming a bigger. He's almost 4-1 favorite over Regis Prograis.
People are gonna hate me because I said that. I don't care. I don't care. I'm gonna rock with Regis in that fight. And I'm probably gonna be wrong. I think Catterall might win that fight after what I've seen, but I'm not gonna count out Regis at all.
I like Jack Catterall. I don't know if I'm picking. I don't know what my pick is for that fight yet. But
okay,
Regis hasn't had a good performance in 2 years.
No, I know. I just can't not go with. Didn't I also pick Regis to beat Devin Haney? Did I do that? Oh, I think I did. And Devin just made him look like an amateur.
I don't remember.
It was. I think I did, dude. I think I did. I'm gonna go. That was probably one of the worst bets I made.
I'm pretty sure I picked Haney.
You did.
I didn't think it was gonna be that bad, but I thought
you did. The consensus, everyone was picking Haney. Yeah. I think but that's why I was rocking with Regis, because at one point I had him as the top fighter at 140, and then he just had bad performance after bad performance. So I'm not going to sleep on him, though. Nonetheless, we are going to do the post-fight show on Saturday, so make sure to join us. Right after the show, we're going to break it down, talk about some of the undercard if I'm going to be watching it, because it is my draft for fantasy basketball, and we are doing a league for fantasy basketball from the mandatory. If you guys are interested, drop some comments. We will make a league if you guys want to do it. Bryan, any final thoughts before we get up and out of here?
No, we did 70 minutes. I think we'll see y'all on Saturday.
Peace.